Leon, this is our microphone with the 3 red lights on it. Love for you to talk into it and communicate with us. Whoa.
When we moved in, we knew that there was a ghost.
There's different spirits that come and go.
I saw 2 girls, and they were up in the air.
Is this Leon communicating with us right now?
Something is pushing on my foot.
Has anybody looked under the bed?
We don't look under beds in haunted houses.
Jeez, diva.
10 years ago, on my very first ghost hunt with a professional group, I was touched by a ghost.
Ooh. I'm feeling stuff all around me.
Yeah?
I know, had it not happened to me, I'd call BS too, but the truth is, this moment in my life changed things for me in a major way. It opened up questions about our existence as humans and took me on a 2-year excursion to discover what lies beneath the grave. Today, I'm taking a look back at the footage, reflecting on the events of that night and coming face to face with the memory of the ghost that touched me. So turn out the lights, find a safe hiding place, and fall in to hunting season. When I was 17 years old, I went to Hilltop, which is one of the strongest memories I have from any part of my life. A large part of that I can attribute to being a storyteller. I've retold the tale of Hilltop more times than I can count, including on here recently. And it's odd to me that it took 10 more years from that moment to actually go on a ghost hunt. It wasn't anything that ever crossed my mind. I wasn't an avid watcher of the shows. I didn't seek this stuff out in any way. I just simply had that experience and a few personal experiences in college, and then went on with my life. It's hard to say if that event in high school drew me to horror movies or not. It certainly had an influence on why ghost stories are some of my favorite of the horror genre, but it wasn't until I met someone interesting on Twitter that I had even considered doing this.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'm an author and a screenwriter, and I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids, and I stay home with my children during the day and write at night. I believe in all kinds of stuff. All the other guys are kind of skeptics. I'm probably the one who hears the creak and I'm like, oh, it's a ghost. And I just had this thought that we should make a documentary about 5 children's writers and illustrators who go ghost hunting for creative inspiration. And so that's what we did.
That's Jessica. Both of us had downloaded Twitter on the same day back in 2013 and immediately stumbled across each other. She told me her story and that she wanted to film some ghosts, and I had just bought my first cinema camera, and I have cousins that live in Minneapolis, so I snagged the first flight I could afford and headed out for an investigation. And once there, I met the rest of the team.
I'm Scott Spinks. I'm a children's illustrator and writer. I'm also apparently about to become a firefighter. I illustrate children's picture books and comic books and book covers, and then I also write graphic novels and short stories. I'm a pretty big skeptic. I've seen a lot of things. I would say about 95% of them I can explain with something that's not paranormal. I've had one experience that makes me start to believe. Ultimately, I'm just looking for something that proves it to me where I have no doubt.
Despite having an experience where his own mother was talking back to him and an experience where a spirit yelled at him on an early investigation with the group, Scott was still looking for evidence of the beyond that he could tangibly point to. If Scott was our Fox Mulder, then his brother Sean was our Dana Scully.
Scott knows Jessica through some writers group. He actually just called me up one day and said that he was going to be part of a ghost hunt, and he knew I was really interested in that kind of a thing. I don't know if I really believe in ghosts, but I believe enough to go look for stuff. But at the same time, it's all about the adventure. It's all about having stories to tell. I've heard noises I can't explain, but I can chalk things up to my imagination, and I can explain things away as something other than ghosts. So I'm still waiting for that definitive proof to show me that something is, ghostly.
But are you expecting it? Someday? Somewhere?
Someday? I don't know. That's a good question, actually. At this point, I would say I really don't believe, but at the same time, I'm still looking for it.
And up until my arrival, the last member of the group was the newest. His name was Sean too, but spelled differently, with a W.
My name is Sean McCann. I'm a children's book illustrator, fine artist, muralist, street artist. I got involved with Ghost Stories Inc. Through Jessica Freeberg. She had asked if I'd be interested in joining her group of artists and writers, and have had a lot of fun ever since. Finding haunted locations is a combination of word of mouth and also kind of doing a little bit of research in the local area. As people find out what we're doing, there's lots of fun hints of places that they feel are worthy of our adventures. I've been on 4 ghost hunts now, so fairly new to this.
And of course, then there was me. I was a young freelance documentarian with a proclivity for the spookiest of things. With my camera and sound gear, I was a one-man traveling crew ready for my new challenge and eager to find an open doorway to the beyond. As a kid, I was terrified by the idea of death. I remember being in a pew at church on one of those weird Sundays where you weren't allowed to go to Sunday school and listening to the Lord's Prayer, and the concept finally hit me. You could die, and you didn't really know what would happen when you die. There was no proof, there were no answers, you just had to have faith. And as I ventured into my 20s and neared 30, this haunted me. It kept me up at night. It came down on my chest like a creature sucking away at my soul. I hated the wastefulness of sleep and how it prevented me from moving my life forward. Laying in bed motionless for 6 hours at a time, I raged against it and was determined to find a reason for my mind to let go of this toxic anxiety. I want to take a quick break here before we get into the actual investigation and tell you about today's sponsor, the Fractal series by Alan Stroud. This is a series of 6 science fiction mystery thriller novellas that have taken my imagination on a roller coaster ride. So far, I've read the first, called Europa, and the second series. There are 4 more to come, and I couldn't be more excited. These 6 short books are all fractals of Alan Stroud's larger sci-fi world. The characters are not necessarily related to the bigger books, but the world is the same. With each installment, you're launched into the future on an adventure to solve a mystery unfolding in some part of our galaxy. I've been reading each book in just 2 sittings, glued to my Kindle for longer than most books hold me. The character development, the stories, the action all keep me on the edge of my seat in a way that not too many books actually do. Check them out. They're cheap, they're digital, and they're a really, really good time. So back to that trip. As I arrived at our location for the night, I could feel my heart beating out of my chest. Annie, the owner of the house, started things off by taking us on a quick tour.
My name is Annie Wilder, and in 1994, my kids and I moved into a house that was 100 years old. And when we moved in, we knew that there was a ghost. We could feel him in the back apartment. But what we didn't know is that the house was filled with ghosts. The house was a single-family home when it was built, and that was in like the 1880s. And then in the 1930s, it was turned into an upper and lower duplex because the fortunes of the economy had turned. And then in the 1960s, the downstairs was turned into 2 apartments, so it was a triplex. This parlor was the living room for the front apartment, and I'll turn on the light on this door.
Okay.
Because that is one of the ways that the spirit sisters communicate with us. And they are 2 old-fashioned girls who lived here in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
And that's the door that you wrote about in your book that you found in the basement.
In the dirt room, hanging upside down. Well, the first night that we brought this up from the basement, I saw 2 girls, ghost girls, floating in the air. All white, transparent, pompadour hairdos, long white dresses.
So when you see the girls, do you feel like it's like an intelligent communication?
Yes. Yep.
Rather than like a residual type of energy
Yes.
that's repeating?
The first time I saw them, I saw 2 girls, and they were up in the air. And the second time, on 2 other occasions, I've seen one of the girls. She was dressed the same, pompadour hairdo, long white dress, transparent, in the air, but not as high.
Immediately, I was feeling pretty lost. Jessica, who I would later find out has a sensitivity to spirits in a way that one might call being a medium or having psychic abilities, she was talking so casually with Annie about these ghosts. As someone who had never had this kind of experience before, I was all giggles on the inside. It felt childish in the way that they were talking, not in a bad way, but in a way that a child would use their imagination to make up stories. I think it's important to add a little context here. I wouldn't find out until much later in life that I have aphantasia. I've talked about this on TikTok before, but it's a relatively unstudied dysfunction that prevents people like me from creating visuals in their brain. I only learned about this from a TikTok video that my wife had seen about 2 years ago, and I thought I was the norm. I had no idea the rest of the world had this magic ability to imagine things when they read, to see their loved ones' faces, to recall a memory as more than facts and feelings. Needless to say, this rocked my world as a human. It turned everything upside down. And I can elaborate more on that in a vlog installment if you like. Just load up the comment section with any questions you have and I'll answer them all. But in the context of this video, I mention this because over the past few years, I've begun to understand the concept of seeing and communicating with ghosts much more clearly. And it also generated a lot more questions. More on that later. But as for the feeling of this, with it all being a silly game, what went down that night after Annie left would have me feeling totally different.
The way she says hello is by turning that spotlight off and on. She likes women better than men, sorry to say. So if you want to try to get some communication from the Spirit Sisters, I would recommend that you talk to them.
So I'm here in the editing room and I realized that one of my bizarre experiences that I had, I reference in the following EVP session, but the camera wasn't rolling during that time. So what happened was I was talking to Annie and Jessica was there and I kept feeling a little tug on my shirt, and then all of a sudden I had this feeling and I whipped around, and right as I turned and looked, right as my eyes landed, the light came back on over the door. So after Annie left for the night, Jessica and I decided to do our own EVP session in that room, since the girls seemed to be playful with us, and the rest of the group was out back testing out the dowsing rods.
Hearing myself say that brought me right back to that moment. I was writing this episode sitting on an airplane from Germany to Los Angeles, and it was as if that feeling of my shirt being tugged came right back. I don't know if that means it's easy for me to imagine, or if that's a sign from my memory that something really was going on that night.
The fellow who lived here in the 60s, 1960 to 1993, is one of the main spirits too. And you will probably hear from him tonight. Leon, please be super respectful. He's like in charge. So if you take him off, you might not get any activity at all. He rented the apartments out to older women, widows or unmarried women. Quiet, reliable. Who wouldn't want
Pay their bills.
Yeah. So when we first moved in, I felt like we thought the old man was here. We figured he was waiting for his wife to cross over because she was in a nursing home at that time. Mm-hmm. And then he would go to the light, and he just felt like kind of heavy, gloomy energy. There was kind of this unspoken, the ghosts can have the back part of the house, and we'll just have the rest of the house.
Leon. I've told the story of Leon over and over during the past 10 years, but I can never remember his name. Leon is going to be very important to this story, and he's the key player in what happened to me that night.
So he's the one that you hear from the most, since he's in charge, or?
He is in charge in the spirit world. That's how I look at it. I actually view him now as an ally. I started out just thinking like, okay, there's an old man ghost in our house. And over time, I have come to view him as an ally, because this house is energetically weird, if nothing else. And so it's like, I do what I can on the physical level, keep the house clean, bright colors, sunshine, fresh air. And I also do what I can on an energetic level, like prayers, Reiki, burn sage, things like that. And we have weird energy or things like that in the house. If there's been some negative experiences, I always ask Leon to come in and help clear the energy.
Annie went on to show us that there was a mudroom, with a back door and a bathroom connecting the living room we were standing in to the summer kitchen and a small bedroom in the back. Leon, after the passing of his wife, had turned the house into a home for widowed women and kept the back summer kitchen and apartment to himself. And after he passed away, that mudroom became a portal where he could take stock of spirits that wanted to take shelter there. In death, he was still managing a halfway house. Only this one was now for the dead. We were eager to interact with Leon, and he seemed like the best spirit to start with. But while we experimented with Annie's dowsing rods in the summer kitchen, something really interesting happened.
Leon, are there other spirits here?
Did you see it hop there?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because it takes a little bit of effort to get over that little hump.
Will you do us a favor tonight, Leon? Because Annie said that you're really cool and she wants us to have a good experience here. Would you encourage the other spirits in the house to interact with us tonight?
I'm going over there.
What on earth is going on?
Where are you?
What happened?
I touched the light and it went off.
Yeah? Do you know what happened? Did you hear us in the other room?
No.
She said, Jessica was saying,
I was asking Leon to ask the other spirits in the house to interact with us.
and that second, the dowsing rod went out, and then ha 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 ha
I
ha.
touched the light and it went off. And
Can
I
you
touched
touch
it
it when
again.
it goes back on?
Nope.
Hi, girls.
But it is hotter than us.
So you remember our friend here is very skeptical.
I just want proof. It's not that I don't think you're here.
I think he totally believes. He just wants someone to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
When I went out there, we came back in here, this was wobbling like...
Yeah, I thought that's because you ran away.
I think so too. It could be.
I didn't mean that as a jab.
I've heard it before.
Continuing with the story of the house, Annie showed us the upstairs playroom where things were a little more unpredictable, and Sean had a really compelling theory as to why.
All
This
right.
is the kids' room.
Yeah, this
Read a
is
little
the
bit about
playroom.
that. Can I go in?
Yes, yeah, thank you for asking. This room is weird because in the daytime it's sunny and cheerful and it's like a perfect room for a playroom, you know, slope ceilings. The weird thing about this room is most rooms have their own energy signature, most places or people. This room flips. Like at night, it has a whole different energy, in my opinion.
Well, it's above the portal down below too.
That's a good point.
So
That
if
is a
at-
good
If
point.
at night, that's when activity starts again. Maybe that's why things switch, because all of a sudden Grand Central
Yeah.
Station opens up.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
that's why I love
Yeah.
having people over because it's like, why has that not occurred to me?
Well, of course, we had to investigate, and this is where we truly started to interact with the spirits of the house.
Dun, 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 dun,
If
dun,
there's
dun,
a
dun,
portal or 3 portals in this house, is she saying that people have told her that there's different spirits that come and go all the time? So there's probably some that are constant.
Okay. We have EVP going, right?
Yeah, I got my recorder in the corner back there.
So this is all 5 of us in the children's room at the Annie Wilder house. I think it's about, what is it, about 11:30, something like that. And we're just sitting here hoping to have a conversation with anybody who might be here with us. Can you say hello?
The tapping back here. Do you hear that?
Yeah, that's not what you're sitting on.
I'm not moving.
Does it feel like it's adjusting or anything?
No.
Because I've heard that a couple times. I just assumed it was.
I don't feel like it's coming from my seat. If you were tapping, can you tap again so we know that it was you? Something is pushing on my foot and I thought it was your foot and I just reached down to feel it and it's not your foot.
What did it feel like?
It felt like Sean's foot was stepping on my foot.
Can you reach out and touch Jessica? Just touch the end of her finger. Or grab her hand.
I don't feel anything.
Doing it on my foot again. Something is totally pushing on my foot and it's really freaking me out.
Well, there's nothing near your foot.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now and there's nothing there.
Because it's like that hard of a pressure
Really?
on my foot. Something touch you?
I don't know. It felt cool on the back of my neck, but just really, really, really faint.
There's been like little gusts that come. I think you had one over here. Is it gone now or is it still cold?
No, I still feel kind of cool right here on the back of my neck, just right that one spot right there.
Because I had that one that came in, it just kind of felt like it went and then it was gone.
It feels really cool over here. Compared to what I feel over here. I don't know.
Do you see anything with do we have the temperature?
Yeah, I've got temp on this.
Okay, what's the temp say?
The walls are in the 70s and everybody else is in the 90s, so.
I'm going to sit down here.
Okay.
So we should have at least two people talk to camera. Preferably you felt the cold.
Whoa. What was that?
I gotcha. Did you get something?
I just felt like a breeze right here. Seriously. I mean, it was like...
Turned it off. Just for music.
So we should have at least two people talk to camera. Preferably you felt the cold.
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa. Has anybody looked under the bed?
You don't look under beds in haunted houses.
Is there a vent or something?
You don't? Like, seriously? Jeez, diva.
I love that we were having a fun time, despite the fact that I was, for the first time, really starting to believe what was happening around me. Feeling the cold on my neck, the icy breeze, hearing Jessica talk about the unmistakable pressure on her foot really got my nerves going. And Jessica saying not to look under the beds in a haunted house was a well-needed moment of comic relief. But it also reminded me, in some small way, about my friend's new movie, Bundy Manor. Yeah. It's time for another quick ad, but this one's super fun. My pal Watson made a feature film for $60,000, which is dirt cheap. It's about an extreme haunt similar to McCamey Manor that makes people sign away their freedoms and tortures the living hell out of their victims. And just like the real life haunt, plenty of the people claim that it's the best and nothing can beat it. Well, when a nice family rolls into town and they're kept up late each night by the screams of the haunt's victims, the dad is determined to put an end to it. This movie is out for you to enjoy now on Tubi, and I have to recommend it for a few reasons. One, Watson is a part of the haunting season community, just like you. He's a hardworking filmmaker and a horror fan who's putting in the hours to create something new and exciting for you to enjoy. And two, I'm in it. Yeah, but just for a moment. See if you can find me. But I'm actually in the movie, which is really cool. And then three, Haunting Season, our community actually helped fund this movie during their Kickstarter campaign. The movie is really well made and a ton of fun, and it has those straight to digital vibes in all the best ways, and it's a truly original indie story that I loved watching. It's called Bundy Manor, and you can watch it today. But for now, let's head back to my first investigation and the moment you've all been waiting for, where I finally get to meet the old man, Leon the Ghost.
When we first moved in, we knew the house was haunted. And we thought there was one ghost. But my kids were teenagers at the time, and I thought, okay, there's a ghost. It's probably the old guy who lived in the back apartment. I could see that he was Catholic from the religious medals and things like that around the house. And the energy didn't feel evil or threatening. It just felt like if somebody was like
there,
you know, just like, yeah. But it mostly felt that way in his apartment. And the further you walked through the house, the more great it felt. We figured he was waiting for his wife to cross over because she was in a nursing home at that time. Mm-hmm. And then he would go to the light, and he just felt like kind of heavy, gloomy energy. And so it's like, well, we can coexist with a ghost. I mean, this house is so cool, you know? And my kids and I didn't really talk about it a lot, but there was kind of this unspoken, the ghosts can have the back part of the house, and we'll just have the rest of the house. And I heard from another psychic, Linda Drake from Texas, who is also really good at talking to Leon. When she was talking to the spirit sisters, the light was going off and on that door. And all of a sudden we hear a loud bang in the wall in the kitchen. And her husband, a tall Texan, jumped and he's like, "Did you guys hear that?" And we're like, "Yeah." And she said to the spirit sisters, "Was that you?" And they said, "No, that was the old man." And the spirits in the house always refer to him as the old man.
So that was at the beginning of the night, around 8 p.m., and then Annie went to a hotel for the night so that we could do our investigation without her being around. It was relatively uneventful, little bumps and pops here and there, little EVPs and weird feelings, but nothing big had happened yet. So now it's 2 a.m, and we're exhausted from doing this for 6 hours, and we decide to end the night by trying to contact Leon one more time. And it starts to go pretty well.
So Leon, I think we tried to speak with you earlier tonight when we had the dowsing rods. Didn't really seem to be getting too much of a response from you, so we were hoping maybe we could just come in and talk to you instead.
At any point, if you want to come in, or even go out, if you need something in the kitchen, feel free to open the door. If you need something in the kitchen, feel free to open the door.
Are there lots of spirits that try to come into this house, Leon? Are there lots of spirits that try to come into this house, Leon? I bet it's a lot of work to keep the bad ones out.
Can you knock on the wall? Maybe whistle?
I heard a whistle. If you're back in the summer kitchen, can you make some noises back there?
What if I flick my light on real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
So I see like a...
What do you see?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that thing hanging on the wall by the door, but I definitely thought I saw like a tall shape standing to the side of the table over there.
This was the beginning of what would go on for about an hour. And during that hour of what felt like a little bit like a call and response, if not a conversation, the only real thing that was happening in the room was my continued interest in that summer kitchen, that just past the mudroom area where Leon tended to the wandering spirits. Even the thought of it now, I can remember the electric feeling I was getting in my chest as I looked down that hallway into the darkness.
Hear that?
Yes.
I definitely feel something back there.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time I'm feeling anything like this the whole night.
Yeah. Like an energy, for sure.
I feel like he's staring right at me.
You can come on in here and talk to us. We're not gonna do anything. We just want to get to know you a little bit. There's plenty of room in here. It's a nice big room.
I was actually thinking this is a pretty big sized bedroom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the side of the passageway that you guard?
Are you working right now? Are you working right now?
Should we come to you? You hear that?
What happened in there? I don't hear that.
What happens if we walk through the passageway?
I think let's go in there.
I think so too.
And then we went.
Now we're in the back summer kitchen, where it's definitely a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm feeling stuff all around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy in this room.
I'm gonna put my camera down here. Leon, are you in here with us?
Is there anyone in here with us? Did something touch you?
I had that same sensation we were having before where it just goosebumps all the way from the ankles up to the top of my head. Leon, this is our microphone with the 3 red lights on it. Love for you to talk into it and communicate with us. Oh, whoa. Love for you to talk into it and communicate with us. And communicate with us. And communicate with us. And communicate with us.
Are you by Josh? Are you checking him out right now? Are you checking him out right now? See if he's okay to be in Annie's house.
It's fine with me, man. I've got a very positive energy and I'm okay with it.
You can touch him.
Do you ever get threatened by other men being in the house? Do you ever get threatened by other men being in the house? Ooh.
What do you got?
I felt like a little nudge. Like I felt my body go forward like that, and I just stepped forward.
Did you touch Josh right now? He'd love it if you did it again.
Yeah.
I saw you move.
Sorry, Leon. It's new for me.
That was kind of funky. The way your body just
You felt like you got pushed here?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I came in, I felt this like swirling around me like this, and I kept turning around. Then I got the pins and needles all the way from ankles to top of my head. But it didn't stop. It just kept like its intensity. So I put my arms out, and we were telling them to check me out, and then eventually it kind of subsided. I've been standing like that for a minute or so, and then.
I'm curious, where do you
Nudged
feel
me
like
twice.
where do you feel like it nudged you at?
Just like right in my back, and it was like 2 hands on my back, and it wasn't forceful or anything. It was just like a hey.
That's enough to feel it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leon. If that was you,
What was
you
that?
did exactly what we asked you to do.
What?
A squeak?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
What was that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Leon. If that was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leon. If that was.
It's like the door opened up a little bit or something.
Leon, are you in there?
Did you open the door a little bit, Leon?
Maybe it's that door to the stairs. Should we go look?
Can you open the door again? Can you move it?
A day or two later, I found myself back in New York City, sitting in a bar with a friend who's very witchy and earthy, and I believe has some indigenous heritage, and I had told her nothing about my trip to the Midwest, and we were talking about something completely unrelated when she froze. Her pupils dilated, and she reached out and clapped right next to my ear. "Oh, what the hell? Why'd you do that?" I asked, and she simply said, "You had something hanging on to you, but don't worry, I got rid of it." And that's when I told her everything. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a storyteller, and naturally, over the years, a story starts to shift and change and become more of a legend than a recollection of the truth. But that night at Annie Wilder's house is frozen like a crystal in my mind. In 10 years, not a single detail has changed from how I remember it. And just last year, when talking to Mike of Charm City Paranormal on the podcast, he described this exact feeling from one of his investigations, and I just had to tell him my story about Leon. Speaking of Mike, I talked to him not long after I found out about my aphantasia, and that's where I came up with a question that truly messed with my mind and my sense of reality. See, through all of these investigations that I did with Ghost Stories Inc., I was searching for answers to what happens after we die. And I did that for myself, not in a scientific way, but by going out, facing my fears, and having these bizarre experiences with my friends. But now, with this new knowledge, and with so much distance from these experiences, I can't help but wonder if all this ghost stuff is real, or if it's just a group hallucination brought on by the power of suggestion and tiredness. Was Leon pushing me around for real? Or was I tired, sore, and because I don't visualize but have strong emotional feelings tied to creating and expressing myself, was I finally tapped into the game? And does it really matter? Or are we all creating something together in that space with our energy? Or are ghosts just gosh darn real? I guess I'll be asking these questions for the rest of this series, and possibly for the rest of my life. This was my first ghost hunt with a team of experienced investigators, and one that I've released before under the Haunting Season umbrella, but it was far from my last. I was hooked after this, and over the next 2 years, I went on a handful of others, most of which I've never seen the footage from. They're just sitting on a hard drive waiting for me to discover what happened those nights, which is a great way to end this video deep dive. If you like this concept I'm working out here, if going through these old investigations and trying to find answers to what happens after we die is interesting to you, let me know. I'd love to have a reason to continue doing this, to dig through my old footage for ghosts. And I'll say this, the Hilltop video and this video I had cut together from old uploads, but moving forward, it's all raw footage and I only got better at shooting these. Subscribe for more spooky content, hit me up in the comments, and I'd love to see you on the next video because we're more likely to survive if we stick together.